How do you say your last name?
Pennell.
Pennell. Okay.
Yeah.
Austin, nice to have you, man. Thanks for coming to hang out.
Good to be here.
We actually haven't recorded. We were talking about that earlier. We haven't recorded in about 6 months. Something like that. So back in the saddle, man. So it's fun. I was joking. We don't have enough to do. So my life just didn't feel complete without adding another project. And this is
He's
the
been on me
culmination
for
of that project.
months. Like, hey, man, you want to get it going again? I was like, I got too much on my plate. I can't.
That's
I
the
can't.
perfect time to do it.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
now
Well,
we're
he
here.
stays
Here we
so
are.
busy. I mean, with the print shop and everything you guys have going on at LCY, like
We have an event today. We had a show last night. We had a show Friday. We had a show Wednesday. We had a show
Crazy.
last Monday.
nuts.
Yes.
So,
Dang.
well, thanks for being here, Zach.
I'm leaving it right after this. I'm going right back to work.
Well, dude, you rolled up on your shadow, man.
That's right.
I'm gonna throw a photo up, but man, your shadow looks so rad. I'm sure it went through a couple of iterations before it's at the version that we saw today when you pulled up. But how did you get into bikes?
Okay, so
Long story.
well, so that shadow actually, it's sentimental. It has a lot of backstory. Just it's a pretty valuable bike to my family. So it was my uncle's bike when he was in the military.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so he was in the Navy, and he bought that bike because he wanted a bike to ride on base. Well, he passed away when he was 32, and I was a senior in high school. And nobody else in the family rode. I mean, my uncle has ridden bikes here and there, but my other uncle, but he wasn't going to ride it. Family, kids and stuff. And,
Sure. What year was it?
when he passed away? Or
No, the bike.
The bike, it's a 2005.
2005. Okay.
So when I got it, it had like 1,900 miles on it.
Wow.
So it was like a brand new bike.
Yeah.
But it had been sitting for, so I got it, I really started riding it in like 2011, 2012. But when my uncle passed away, in 2012, or no, it was December of 2011 when he passed away. Anywho, the bike had been sitting for like 6 or 7 years. And I would pull it out of my grandparents' garage, clean the carburetor, fire it up, and ride around the neighborhood. And so I always kind of had an attachment to that one because that's the bike I learned how to ride on.
Yeah.
But it wasn't my bike, so it just sat in the garage. So I had bought other bikes. So I had a VTX 1300, which was a ripper. That thing was fun. It was so quick. And then from there, I had the opportunity to trade it for a shovel head, and I didn't.
Didn't do it. Oh,
I
man.
didn't do it. So I was like, I don't know much about Harleys. I'm just going to stick to the...
Dude, I know you would be working on it like a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But anywho, they then I traded that VTX for I had a CB 919.
Okay.
So it's a CBR 900 motor from the 90s and a naked sports bike frame with fuel injection. And that thing was quick.
Do you have photos of any of these old bikes?
Yeah, I can pull one up.
Okay.
If you look up a 2006 CB 919, it was
I don't
red.
even know what that looks like.
So they took the CBR motor.
Oh, I botched it. C.
Yep, that's it. So yeah, that red one right there.
Dude, that thing looks like a freaking...
Yeah. So that was an extremely fun bike to have, and it was fast. You can get up to 140 on that thing, and just be
Dude, that's scary,
screaming.
man.
No, sir.
Oh my gosh. Do you like
sir.
being like forward like that? Because I've sat on like bikes that are,
So
like,
that one, it's
crotch
not as
arches and
forward
stuff.
as you would think it was. Like the bars were kind of up a little bit, so you
Okay.
kind of had that. Yeah,
So you're not like
upward sit.
completely lean forward.
No, but it was set up in a way where you could tuck in and
Okay.
just hang on, and it had a little fairing on the front, so I could tuck my helmet in and get all the wind.
all the
over
wind
it.
over your
Yeah.
head, yeah.
But as soon as you got up in that wind, dude, it was like
Peeling you off.
That's cool, man.
So that was a fun bike. Then I sold that one to pay for school. And then that's about the time that my uncle called me, my other uncle, and was like, "Hey, this bike's sitting. Do you want it?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yes, I want that bike." Cause
So you didn't feel compelled to like ask or anything. You're just like,
Well,
I'm gonna
I'd
I'm
always
just-
been like, "Hey, I want to ride it," and because it was my uncle's bike, and it was kind of the thing that they were hanging on to for the sentimental value
Sure.
of like remembering Tim.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Tim was my uncle's name. It was like the conversations were, hey, if we're gonna remember him, let me ride the dog snot out of this thing.
Yeah.
Like let's put it on the road and I'll keep it going.
I'm gonna hack it all to pieces, but I'll keep
Yeah,
going.
well, I had to work my way up to that because they were like, for the longest, they were like, don't touch anything, don't change it. We know you,
Yeah.
don't do that. And I was like, okay, I
like
won't
day
do it.
one,
Yeah.
ripping the tank off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I rode it around for probably 6 or 7 years without touching anything on it, just
wow,
to kind
okay.
of honor the family's request and keeping it factory and stock, or how he left it, which it already had the apes on it, already had the Vance and Hines on it.
Okay.
And I told him I wouldn't change that because
Yeah.
that was a setup he liked.
I've got a picture of my shadow that I had like a lifetime ago. If you go to,
Look at that right there.
there's like the bottom.
My
photo.
old shadow.
My old shadow.
Dude, I forgot that you
this
had
is Nick
one of
Willis's
these.
Flickr. He took this picture like 100 years ago.
Holy
That's my,
smokes, dude.
yeah.
My chromed out is an 84 shadow. It was older than I am.
So those are the ones with the dual disc up front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what was so cool is like the fender, all the side plates, the tank, everything was like a polished chrome, and I've never
Yeah,
seen that.
it's
before.
super cool.
Can I skip through these photos? Is it
Yeah,
all
you
the
can. It
same?
may pop up a little ad, but
What? There's ads on Flickr.
the ads on Flickr.
Hey,
but yeah,
man.
there's some shots. Do you know Randy Wade by chance?
Uh-uh.
Don't know him. Me and him and Nick all went to.
Yo.
Look at that, dude!
Look at
Oh
you
my
go,
god,
man.
it's crazy.
It was October 2008.
2008. Yeah,
That's
so
crazy.
that was my Honda Shadow, man. So I had a deep love for that bike, and I had to move on. But I look back and I'm like, I really wish I wouldn't have sold that bike. I mean, I guess you say that about any bike that you own, and I had a lot of fun.
Some
learning how to
bikes just
ride
have
on
a
that thing.
special place.
Well, it's
in
my
your
first
heart.
one. It's my
Yeah.
first. We kind of grew up riding like dirt bikes and stuff, but my grandfather was living at like this crappy little apartment complex in that's shout out Randy Wade.
That's crazy.
He was living in this crappy little apartment complex in Pleasant Grove, and he called me one day because his neighbor had this parked in the backyard for like however long, just sitting out there. And my grandfather was like, "Would you be interested in selling this bike? You're not doing anything with it." And the guy was like, "Yeah, I'll sell it." And so he called me up and was like, "Hey, there's a motorcycle for sale in the backyard, and I think it would be great for you. You got to come get it."
Yeah.
And so we worked out a deal, and so shout out Grandpa. That's the reason.
Man, I don't remember that story.
Yeah.
But then I was just like, all right, I think I'm gonna change it. And about that time, I wrecked it.
Ooh.
So I was coming down 280, right there where you got 280 and 459 going underneath.
Yeah.
And I was behind this big ass F350. Like it had a 6-inch lift, like a giant truck. Like my head was in line with the bumper.
The hitch. is
Yeah,
staring
I'm
at
just
you.
like, hey. And this is right before they did all that road work. So someone was coming off 459 and they cut straight across on 280.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah.
That merge lane.
Yeah,
Where
so
they, it's still not good.
It's
I mean,
not
they did all
great.
the work, but yeah.
But they cut all the way over and cut off that 350. And he locked his tires up and I was right behind him. So I just laid it over and I slid underneath the truck.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Dude,
it
that's
was
crazy.
It was kind of wild.
Hopefully you didn't get mangled too bad.
No, I didn't. I got some road rash on my leg and my shoulder and
My face, my
well-
hands.
well, I had a half helmet at the time,
Oh,
but
yeah.
this day I just wore the full face.
Oh, okay.
And so when I hit the ground, like it cracked this part of the full face.
Dude.
And ever since then I'm like, I'm not wearing a half.
Dude, I know, man. I've got the same helmet that the dude gave me when I bought my Shadow. I've had that same helmet for
Oh,
like
which one is that? The
15
coconut helmet?
years, I guess. No. That one I don't like. So I bought from JMP Cycles, I bought a 3/4, but I feel like an idiot when I wear it. It's dot approved, and some of them aren't dot approved, so they sit more slim on your
Yeah.
head. But this one, I feel like, the coconut, like I have
It's
like
like a coconut head.
I feel like an alien or something. I don't know. But
Pretty
Just a-
goofy.
It's just a brain bucket.
Yeah.
But anyways, I agree. I'm trying to get a new helmet because I've had this old helmet for so long. But I really dig the like built well Gringo helmet, which
Yeah,
is
so
like.
that's what I'm running.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so that's what I want, and I think I'm gonna stick with a full face too. Just
Yeah.
Because, man, I just don't want to gnarl my face up. My wife would leave me, and, it wouldn't be
I mean,
cool, so.
the open face are cool because, like, you can see your buddies smiling and talking, and
Yeah, you can't talk at all.
You can't talk with the full face, so
Yeah.
that's what kind of sucks about it.
Still, priorities. Like, what's more
Yeah,
important?
I'm like, I don't know if I want to have reconstructive face surgery.
Oh, my teeth got
anytime
knocked
soon.
out. Yeah.
But
Dude, that's gnarly, man.
Yeah.
So
at that point, it was like, hey, I boogered it up anyways.
it didn't freak you out? Did you take a break or anything from riding
No.
after that? You're like, I'm fine.
No, I actually bent the bars back straight and then rode it for a couple hours after that.
Oh, my God.
Like the tank was leaking fuel, so
all over your rashed up leg.
yeah, so it had like a pinhole on the side of the tank.
Yeah.
And at half a tank, it wouldn't leak. So I would just fill it halfway up and ride it around.
You could Bondo it or something, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. But anywho, at that point, I ended up cutting it up because I was figuring out, okay, what can I do to this thing? Because it's a shaft drive. There's no aftermarket support for this thing.
Sure.
Like, there's a lot of the VL, like the 600 Shadows, because they have that soft tail vibe with the frame. There's a lot of aftermarket for those. But the
Go back to mine. I want to see it. I couldn't remember if mine had a center rear. No, it's
No,
got the.
yours
It's got
has the
the. It looks like the sports. Or well, I don't know. There's. I'm gonna preface this conversation by saying I'm not like super knowledgeable about motorcycles. I like riding them, but I don't know a ton about them. But I know there's like it's either a Sportster or something that has these same shocks on either side on the rear. And
Yeah,
dude, if you have a Sportster and get on lowbrow or TC, like
You got to make
so many parts.
Yeah, easy.
But like he's working on a Vulcan and I've got an Evo, and so like trying to find parts. There's like one little half page, for like those bikes. Like everything is geared towards Sportster.
and it's all like weird, funky air intake filters.
Yeah.
And like, here's a cool speaker system and a cup holder for your handlebars.
Yeah.
And it's like,
But anyways, okay, so you wrecked the bike, you rode it
Yeah.
around, leaking gasoline, and
yeah. Then I stopped.
and then you stopped. Okay.
Yeah, and then got married and other stuff, and I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna cut it up now.
Okay.
And so,
Did you have like a vision for what you wanted to do?
no, so I would actually funny with that because there wasn't a lot of guys who had done stuff to these. I would strip the bike down to a roller, so I had the bars on it, frame, and wheels, and obviously motor was on it and everything still. But I would strip it down and just sit back and look at it of like,
just stare.
what, like, where would a tank sit right here? What kind of angle would that make? Can I cut this shaft drive out? I'm like, no, obviously you can't do that. And I did that. I can't tell you how many times I did that, just trying to figure out where my limits were. And funny thing with the shaft drives is when you lower it, because that bike, it sits high factor. It doesn't sit high. It's got a low
Mine's that high,
seat.
man. If you look at it from the back, I mean, it
Yeah,
looks like
so
a
that's
dirt bike. You could see straight through under the fender.
Yeah. So there was a lot of travel
Yeah.
in that. And what you learn is that shaft drive, there's a U-joint that has tolerances in that where you can't go too low and you can't go too high.
Oh, okay.
So I homemade a bunch of hard struts. I had like 6 pairs to figure out where I could set it and it run without whining that U-joint.
Okay.
So you would get to a certain point and you could feel
It's like putting strain on it.
yeah, you could feel a little bit of resistance, and like you let off the throttle and it would like chuck a little bit because it was like binding.
Yeah.
So the struts I have on it now are right at that point.
Okay. You can start making custom struts for everybody else out there.
Yeah.
Shop. And I've asked this question. I've never ridden a rigid frame. How's the ride? Does it not beat you to death, especially like
so-
a long trip or anything?
So that bike, when you look at my bike, you think, oh, it looks like a heavy bike. It only weighs like 400 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's only got like 40 horsepower, but when it weighs as little as that, compared to like a Dyna that weighs, I don't know, 600 pounds, 500 pounds or whatever.
Pretty smooth
It just,
ride, though.
yeah, it's like you get a hardtail mountain bike and you go riding trails and it doesn't beat the shit out of you.
That's true. Yeah.
It's because it's so light.
Yeah.
It just kind of bounces.
It'll buck you off the handlebars.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Speaking for myself.
I haven't ridden any like genuine hardtail frames. But Nick Resty was telling me one time, he's like, something how struts, the impact of the strut runs straight through, like the angle of the strut, it runs straight through that seat. I haven't experienced that on mine as much, and I guess it's probably because it's lighter.
Sure.
But I wouldn't say that there's a lot of give with it at all.
Well, you don't have any kind of spring or anything.
I don't have
in your
any kind of
seat.
spring.
You're just sitting
Ooh.
But
bare metal, baby.
I also run like 20 psi in the tire.
Okay.
So the
You
tire
get a little
sits
cushion
up.
there.
Yeah, and it's a 15-inch
Tiny little
rim
bit.
with a really tall tire.
Yeah.
So
Well, it looks good, man.
Well,
so
thanks.
you put the peanut tank on there. I see that. So those are the original apes that you had.
yeah, so those are original apes. Yeah, and I was going to Daytona a couple years ago, and the day before Daytona, those bars were cracked.
Really?
And so this is how I met Boozer, actually. Well, one of the first times we hung out was those bars were cracked. And I was like, I need someone who can TIG weld. Because I didn't know how to TIG weld. And I ran up there to Daniel, because the dojo was across the street. I was like, hey, do you know anybody who can
Weld
fix
these bars
these
up for me.
bars? Because they were cracked almost all the way around.
Dang.
Now it's still being held together by the triple tree. I
Yeah, so
guess.
the clamps were
So
holding
it's like
the
two
bars.
individual-
Yeah, so the bars were holding it
Keep
straight.
turning
And there was a nick in my wires going up to I still had all the hand controls and everything. And I was like, why is this not working? And I started looking. I was like, oh, the bars are cracked and the wire's nicked. So I cut it all out and pulled the bars off and ran down to Daniel. And he's like, yeah, I'll see if Nick will weld them up. I was like, okay, cool, because I'm leaving tomorrow.
I need this working.
So Nick tigged them back up, which I was super grateful for, and came back down to pick them up, and that's when I met Nick.
Now was that when they were at the spot over there on 4th Avenue? Or
No,
this
so
is when they moved to.
They were on Powell.
Okay.
Okay.
They've moved like 3 times. I haven't been to the latest iteration of wherever they are. It's been a while.
Yeah. So
Well, cool. So you took a trip to, you said Daytona?
Mm-hmm.
I think I was talking, me and Nick, ever since I got my Harley going, since Loaf got it going. I can't take credit. I gave it to Loaf. Loaf got it going. Go see Loaf at Sanctuary Cycles if anybody
yeah, Love's
has
a
an old
great
bike.
guy.
Dude, he is the man.
He
I
is
want to get
such
him
a
on
good
here.
dude.
I'm hoping he'll do it.
Yeah.
But ever since I got that going, I lost my train of thought. What was I going to say?
You're talking about
Daytona.
Daytona.
I still don't know where I was going with that.
Daytona.
Daytona.
Oh, you and Nick are probably talking about this. Smoky
Oh,
Mountain
we were
Fest.
riding. Yeah, so we were riding the other day, and I asked him if he knew you, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know Austin. We went to Smoky Mountain Chopper
Yeah.
Fest together." And he told me a story. He said we were riding together, and he was trying to get you to back off so he could spit. I guess miscommunication or something. Finally, he was like, he spit, and he's like, I sprayed him.
See,
So-
I got.
yeah, so he apologized, but man, that's coming up, and
Yeah.
we're like I said, he's working on a Vulcan, trying to get it going, and so we're toying with the idea of going this year. I think it'll
Yeah.
be
You'd
fun.
be cutting it close.
We'll see.
You can
We'll
do
see.
it.
But how many? What's the furthest distance you've gone on the Shadow?
So I did a 1K in a day on it, which was fun.
Wow,
So I rode from Birmingham. I woke up at 4 a.m., left from Birmingham.
just solo.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's just I just wanted to do it.
just take off. Go around.
Yeah. A buddy. So the guy that got me into choppers, I went to school in Kansas for a year for automotive restoration and business, and I met a buddy named Tony, who was out there, and he's big into choppers. He had a shovel head, and it's a super cool bike. It's probably one of my favorite all time bikes. It was purple, had gold flake all in it. It was super cool. And he had a duck head on his jockey shifter. So
Yeah,
to kind of pay, I guess, what would the word be, homage or
Homage,
whatever.
yeah.
To him, I went and found a duck head to put on my jockey shift.
what did that come off of? Like a
what I was gonna
a
ask.
faucet or something? Like where do you get a duck head?
Okay,
Rip it off of a car.
so I had no idea where I was gonna find one, and then I thought antique mall. So
Okay.
I went up to that antique mall in Irondale, and there was a platter, it was a duck platter, like a cheese and cracker tray, and it had this bronze duck head on the top
Is it
of
brass?
or brass or
Brass.
whatever.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah,
That's
that'll
it.
work.
That's
I
the
got it,
one.
and
Hack
took
it off
and
and drill
I
a hole in
literally
it.
cut it off, drilled a hole in it, and then JB welded it on
Yeah,
that bar.
it looks good.
It does. It looks really sick.
So we got a picture of it pulled up. Yeah. All right, so that leads me to my next thing, and this is shout out to my brother-in-law Zach Crooks who introduced us over the phone.
Yep.
We had a family thing, and I was talking to him, and he's like, "Oh, my buddy Austin rides," and small world. We were talking about that earlier.
Super small.
And come to find out, you know everybody, and we were looking at pictures of your bike and stuff. And one of the first questions I had, one, what made you go make the decision to cut your linkage and actually do this? And then two, what is it like to ride it? Because it seems so foreign to me to basically completely flip the controls around where you're using both feet to, yeah. So,
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah. Okay, so I've always seen it done. I love the clean bars. Like, we'll go to bike shows or whatever. I'm like, that's so cool.
And you're not running a front brake or anything.
No.
Yeah.
So I thought it was always cool. There's no levers on the bars. There's nothing up there. There's just a throttle. And I was like, man, that's really cool.
No mirrors, nothing. Who needs them? No blinkers. Who needs
just weight reduction.
Yeah.
So I'm probably not the best guy to talk about this.
No, I'm not the best guy to talk about this.
I don't know the history behind all of it. I don't know any of that. But I saw it, and I was like, man, this is really cool. These guys run like this. It looks so free and so clean. And then we're at the dojo one night, and half the guys down there run it that way. They run their bikes that way. And Nick Shovelhead is that way. So his blue one with the tall sissy bar.
Yeah.
And I guess it was out running. I was like, can I try that and ride it? It was like, hell yeah, have at it. Dude, I hopped on that thing, and it was like, so your left foot is your clutch.
Is your clutch, yeah.
That's it. And then you shift with your hand, so your left hand. So on my bike, it's...
Now, is the shifter behind your leg or in front of it?
It's right under my thigh, so
it's right behind it. Okay.
Yeah, so it's right behind it. My bike it's one forward and the rest back.
Yeah.
So like I'll be going down the road and you just slap the duck head and it shifts.
Okay.
It's great.
That's
cool.
It's a lot of fun. And I think the technical term for that's jockey shift.
Jockey shift's what I've heard, yeah.
So that's so anywho, I rode Nick's shovel and did it, and I was like, I'm so in love with this because it's kind of a challenge. And when you've put 30,000 miles on a bike and you've had the same flow,
sure,
it's like, let's change it up.
Let's make this harder.
Let's make it.
Let's put a kickstart on it so I sit in the parking lot for 10 minutes just to get it cranked.
Yeah.
Let's put a jockey shift on there where I'm always worried about falling over. That's what I'd be afraid of. Is like,
so that was.
What do you do when you come to a stoplight?
That was a learning curve for me
because you can't put your foot down.
No.
You can't put any foot because you're using your right foot to brake because you don't have a front brake.
Yeah, you just
you're
don't
using
stop.
Your left foot to clutch.
You just keep going.
Like you just can't,
dude. You
just like slow down to a putter and just hope that the light changes before you have to put your foot down.
So I noticed that. So when I went to Daytona with all the guys this last go, I didn't have the jockey shift set up, and I knew I wanted to do that. So I was kind of paying mental attention to like how they were riding with it.
Okay.
And like I was watching Kurtz a lot. And he has no idea I was watching how he rode. But we would come to a light, and he'd see a red light, and he would slow down and just, like, keep it in gear and try and ride it out.
Just try to ride it out, yeah.
As long as he could, and then he would snap back into
But eventually you do have to stop.
You have to stop.
So what? Yeah. Walk me through that process. I guess you would put it in neutral?
So I usually just pop it straight to neutral, and then I have my left foot to put down.
You have your left foot put down, and you brake with your right foot. Okay.
And then you brake with your right foot. Now, when I'm on a hill...
Ooh.
So I'll keep it in first, and I'll kind of like clutch it. Like if there's a car in front of me and a car behind me, and I'm on a hill, I'll come up to where I have to stop, and I'll just keep it in first and just whoa, and then let it roll back for a second and snap it, and then roll back and snap it.
Okay.
So
a little bit of a learning curve.
Yeah, I would do that. But no, so I rode Nick's bike. I was like, I love this so much. I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. And this was after Daytona. I went home that night and took a grinder to my stock linkage and just cut it. I had no game plan on how I was going to make it work. I had nothing.
Full commitment.
I was like, I'm going to
do this one way or another. I'm going to force myself.
I'm going to force myself to do it. So I went home and I cut it. And I was like, all right, now I got to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I made my own.
So what do you do once you cut it? I mean... Is there somebody out there that made the shifter?
Nobody made anything for that, yourself? So I just made it.
Yeah.
So what I did was on the linkage. So your left foot, where you obviously you shift with your left foot from the factory setting. There's a bar, and at the end of that bar, there's a ball joint that snapped over it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
so you could take that out.
So I took that out, and I cut that bar, and it was threaded on the end. So then I took my clutch lever cable. I took that cable and I wrapped it up the front of the frame and over and back down, and then what I did was I retained that rod, and threaded that rod into the foot shifter because it was the same. That was the thread pattern, and I rotated that lever up. So where the lever would normally be coming back to where you push it down or pull it up, it shifts the transmission. So I
180.
I 180'd it up, so it's pointing up. So now I have this threaded rod coming up with a threaded end on the other side. So I cut the other threaded end off, and then I took 2 pieces of steel and I drilled a hole in a slot to where you could slide the cable into it like you would the cable into your clutch lever. So I did that, and then I welded that to the end of the that little 2-inch bar. So now I have a way of applying pressure to the clutch cable. So then I had to figure out, okay, now where do I set my clutch cable to make the adjustments, etc. So
to figure out.
So I took another piece of steel and then drilled another hole in it and then tapped it and put a nut on it to where I could thread in where the cable threads into the bars. Because you know how you have a cable
Pull a picture. Flip to the other side of his bike. You can zoom in on that a little bit. Yeah, go back to the other side.
Yeah, so right there.
It's kind of grainy, but yeah.
So follow that cable down. So you see that little cylinder right there, that cylinder? Yes, that's my coolant overflow reservoir.
Okay.
All right.
So the factory reservoir was back under the bike, and I needed a place to put the battery. So I took that reservoir off, and then Ross over at Single Speed, he made that cylinder for me to run a coolant reservoir. So then I strapped that to the side of the bike. So
It looks good, though.
It does.
I wouldn't have even noticed it, yeah.
It came out very well. So anywho, you can follow that cable all the way down, and you can see where it threads in right there at the bottom. So that's actually the adjuster screw that went into the left lever.
Oh, okay.
So now you can adjust
So
it.
now I
down
can adjust
there.
it down there.
Yeah.
So now that I've made the linkage to the shifter lever, and then I've connected it to the cable, and now I have some way of making adjustments. I had to just tack weld that steel to the frame at the right angle, and then go try and ride it and see if it worked, and not bind up. There were different angles where it would bind up, or my foot would be way too far up, or way
push
too far
way down.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
So I found the happy medium of where it needed to be to get the full leverage on it, and then I just freaking booger welded it.
Okay.
Dude.
That does clean up the handlebars, man.
Oh,
You don't
yeah.
miss having a front brake or anything like that?
I don't know.
My dad's always been like, all your stopping power's in the front brake. And I don't know. I don't know if I would, maybe one day.
I just have a drum brake on the rear,
Yeah. Man.
which works.
This
It
works.
stops.
It looks good, dude. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's fun. And that wheel, it's a 19-inch wheel off of. I have no idea.
I was about to say, where'd you get parts and stuff? There's triple trees on the front, or the front lowers look really good, like nice and clean.
So that's all. So the front forks are all factory Honda,
Okay.
but they're 41 millimeters. So if I ever wanted to go 6 or 8 or whatever over, I think Dynas have a 41 millimeter.
Mine has a 41 millimeter.
Yeah.
So mine's a FX Softail Custom.
Yeah.
And same as Cody Tippins. He's got the same.
Yeah.
He actually changed his whole front end. That was
Yeah.
another thing. We were like, dude, I've got the wide glide front end, and I thought it would be sick. You know, everybody's got the chopper, narrow,
Yeah.
lane splitter
Yeah.
front ends, but it's not as easy. Mine's got the 41 millimeter, but like it's not as easy just to get a narrower front end because you could buy triple trees and stuff off lowbrow that are shorter, and but then you basically have to buy new forks. You have to get rid of the front brake, or you have to do a lot of customization. I thought like, oh, I'm just gonna get a shorter triple tree, run the same forks, same brake, same everything, but the way it crunches everything in, it's a little more involved, to get all that swapped. So didn't do it. What I did do, I'm just cheap right now because like my bike is pretty much stock, so I just did a lot of bolt on, bolt off stuff.
Do you have photos
And
of
that's
that
fine.
online? Have you posted any?
I haven't posted any.
Just in the group chat.
I just got some little 2-inch slugs that I put on the end of the forks and just gave it like a little 2-inch rise. And I was like, dude, I'm Chopper City right now. I was like, I'm basically a custom fabricator now.
Yeah, there you go.
I never pulled the forks apart. And it was kind of cool just learning. But yeah, yours looks sick, dude. It's awesome.
No, but doing that kind of stuff is just how I figured out how to do it. You know, I would take stuff apart that I had no business taking apart just to put it back together and figure out how does this work.
Yeah.
No,
but I'm sure it's kind of a pain being a metric bike, finding parts and stuff like that. And I guess, just custom building everything yourself.
That's okay. Yeah. Like I got that tank from Nick.
So it looks like, you put those struts on the side that made it rigid. So your fender and your back wheel, it's not. I guess you could go back to a soft tail if you wanted to.
I could put shocks back on it. Okay. So the way I did the sissy bar was off the swing arm and the drive shaft.
So it all moves together.
Yeah. So when that strut's on there, it's dead where it's at.
Yeah. That's cool.
But no, there's articulation all on it. That's a rattle can paint job.
Yeah. Well, he's got a bear tank that he got from TC Bros or somewhere, and he was like, "Man, where should I get it painted?" I'm like, "Home Depot." Get you a couple of cans of paint and paint.
Figure out kind of what color code you want to go with, and I mean,
well, the rest of it's flat black.
It's all black,
so just,
you
just get some matte black paint. I want him to get his bike going so bad because I'm like just fired up.
What are you lacking on it?
We're close.
We
are
tank.
Close.
I think the tank is the biggest thing.
But it runs though, right?
It did.
It did.
Whenever the last time it was cranked.
It did before we chopped it up.
So it was one I used to ride. Find a photo. Go to my Instagram.
Well, that's what I was asking. I didn't know if you had photos of it online.
I've got photos of the Vulcan, yeah.
What's your handle? Alex.
Just Alex from Alabama. So top right, that's mine.
It's a cool bike.
Yeah, dude, it's so awesome.
Dude, I love so this bike.
It still had I took all the blinkers off and it's I think this photo has still got the tack on there. I took that off. So that's what it looked like when we pulled it out of the
barn find.
The barn find, yeah. Well, it was a basement find. And then I worked on it for a little bit, but then I quickly realized I didn't know what I was doing. And I just wanted to ride it.
Dude, Harley just makes good-looking bikes. Like,
it's
out
sick,
the gate.
dude. The rake on it that's just stock, I thought it looked great, the only thing I want to do, I bought some new, somebody put aftermarket air shocks on there, but they're not adjustable.
Is it a single shock or a dual shock?
It's a dual shock under the bottom.
How big are they?
They're about the size of this water bottle, I guess.
And they're
but the ones that are on there have a separate air reservoir. So they're made by Showa, and I even I took a photo of them. No, they're not adjustable. At least not that I can see. So I took a photo of it and emailed it to riders and was like, "Hey, do y'all know anything about these shocks? I'm just curious. I can't find any information online. How do I adjust it? Because I just want to drop the rear a little bit, just so it doesn't have that dirt bike look." And as far as I can tell, they're not adjustable. So I went on Dennis Kirk and just found some aftermarket shocks that'll drop it about 2 inches. And so I think I'm just going to put those on there, or like 1 3/4 inches on the back.
Yeah, that'll work.
So between the 2-inch rise on the front and the 1 3/4 drop on the back,
it'll have that.
It'll have a cool stance.
It'll have that frame line, yeah.
And then I went and rode with Cody, and anybody that knows Cody, he just got a bike. He said he's only had it 2 weeks, and
apparently
his is
apparently
it's
10
over.
Yeah,
10 over.
Crazy,
dude. It is so rad. And then I saw what could be because his frame is identical to mine, and maybe this is kind of a thing I'm toying with right now. Mine's got an oil cooler on the front, but his doesn't. He took his off, and I see a lot of dudes that don't run oil coolers. And so I messaged my buddy Randy, and I'm like, "What are your thoughts on this? We live in the South. It gets pretty hot in the summertime. Do I need an oil cooler? Is this am I going to wreck my bike if I take it off and run it down the highway?
I have no idea. I've got a radiator.
So
I've got a freaking we got radiators on the front.
Yeah, no, my Shadow did too.
And it's so. No, I mean I don't know. I don't know if you can pull the oil cooler off or not.
I know people. Well, Cody obviously his is not on there.
I wonder if you cap it or just bypass.
That's what I was trying. I got on the ground. It was looking under his and trying to figure out where, because he's got the same oil tank and everything. And I guess they just capped off or they moved it, or maybe they just ran some
bypass it
lines.
because obviously the oil flows through it.
Yeah.
So you'd probably just have to bypass it.
Anyways,
Man, what's the worst that could happen?
But
Blow up.
yeah, just melt. Yeah. Get out of this. So going back to the Vulcan.
Yeah, the
if you
Vulcan.
scroll down. Scroll.
Does it have the
video?
single backbone frame, or does this one like split and dual?
It's got the single under
Okay.
the bottom. Yeah. This is just riding videos. I don't know
Oh,
if
it's
I
not
have.
actual.
Oh, there's a
Yeah.
picture of it. Okay, cool. So we just bobbed it out, and so like the same thing. I had like a little micro sissy bar on the back,
Yeah.
and then the fender, kind of like yours. It just all maneuvers independently. But the biggest problem with this bike and the way I had it built was I couldn't ride a passenger, and so. My wife loves to ride, and I want to take her, and so that was the biggest thing about like. I never rode it very much because I couldn't take her with me or anything. So.
Yeah. So the cool thing about these bikes is where you have that swing arm frame is the same way with the VLX 600s on the Honda Shadows. That rear swing frame, that lines up, like if you were to, the gap there for its movement, those bars actually line up with the bars that come off the frame. So a lot of guys will take it and cut both and then put a bar in between and slug them. And then you have a hardtail with it.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never got
seen
that
that.
far involved. But anyway, so Zach took this bike and was like, "Yeah, I hate everything about it." I, mean,
I didn't say
completely-
that.
But he's like, he just didn't dig the style. I think I had like, I don't know, those are pretty big apes. I can't remember what.
Yeah, I didn't really like the
Link
bars.
they
It looks good.
It's got the Vance and Hines on there, and man, I had a lot of fun on this bike. But
Those are 800s, right?
VN 800,
Yeah.
yeah. But you like looking online. I was surprised. There's like a whole culture just
There's a
around
lot.
Vulcans. You know what I mean?
And hell,
They're
you
cool
could even
bikes.
like cut a block of steel and just do a hard strut where that mono strut is, and then have a hardtail.
Yeah.
And then
So
run you a
he's,
sissy bar and a king and queen. All
yeah,
that.
he wanted to put the Springer front end and do a lot of stuff to
That's
it.
too
but,
much work.
But at some point, we had to
Too
just
much.
be like, okay, do I want to work on this bike all summer? Or we want to ride it.
Just ride, man.
And so I think he's kind of like once he gets the tank put on, he bought like
That's
more of
it.
a
That's the biggest
teardrop
thing.
style tank.
That's the biggest thing left is just the tank. Me and
Did you
Dad
go
did
the
everything
same
else.
style?
It's a damn. I have a picture of it. It was like, I tell this story. It was the ugliest tank I've ever seen.
This one that you bought?
Yes, that I saw online. Because I was looking at different tanks, and that one stood out because I was like, "Damn, that's ugly." And then I sat on it for 2 weeks, and I'm like, I can't stop thinking about that tank. Like,
You're like, it's
I kind of like that
beautiful.
tank. So I
It
bought
looked good, man. Like it looks really good.
I like it now that
It's the
I have
kind of
it.
tank only a mother could love.
So I asked him what he did with that peanut tank, and I don't know. Maybe this winter, if I get the wild hair to chop mine,
Just
We'll
take
see.
just take your tank off and run
the
some bolts
tank.
on that.
I would lose all the controls and the switch and
that's
all that,
cool.
so it'd have to all be rewired and
Now, what are you talking about?
putting that tank on mine.
I still,
But I don't
I
think
still
it would-
have it.
Yeah, no, I just don't know if it would look good with the wide glide.
I mean, you
front
could
end.
look at
That
it.
narrow
So that tank. So there's a guy at the dojo, Excited Zach. That's his Instagram handle. He's got a tank like that on his Ironhead.
It looks good.
I think it looks
It
sick.
flows really well.
It's
Yeah,
got
it
like the
does, yeah.
rabbit ears on the.
No, I
No,
got
you're
rid
gonna
of
change
those.
that.
I already did. That's the new bars on it.
Oh, that is.
Yeah, I
Okay.
took the rabbits off.
It's so skinny.
I love it.
It looks really good.
So going back to the clutch thing, your clutch is different from a suicide clutch. I've heard that term.
Yeah, I don't.
What's the difference?
That's what I
I
don't know
couldn't
either.
tell you. I want to say. I don't know. I'm probably completely wrong with all this, but I saw
Or
one
is it
post.
the same? They just
Well, I saw one post
one.
one time where like a suicide shift. It might be the same setup, or it might be where you got these guys with these levers and then their clutch.
Clutch and everything.
is
That's what
on
it was.
that.
Okay.
That might be the suicide.
okay.
So no left foot control. Basically, you have one bar with your clutch.
But
and
wouldn't
your
that-
shifter.
I feel like that would be easier than working it with your
Well,
feet.
you're just taking
and
it off the handlebar and
And
moving
you're
it down.
right
there.
here.
Just
You're just steering with one arm.
yeah.
But you do that anyways with the jockey half the time.
Well, cool, dude.
Yeah.
You said you work with Boozer,
Yep.
who I have not met, but I've heard that name thrown around a
Yeah.
good bit. And what do you guys do exactly?
So the shop's name is Boozer Built. Boozer has poured his heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears into building this thing, and he's done a phenomenal job. And it was honestly, it was an honor for him to ask me to be a part of it. So we jumped on board, and it was just he was doing it by himself. I mean, he's had guys in and out. Kevin helped him start it, but he was doing it by himself, and it's a lot to run a business. I'm sure you guys know doing anything all by yourself, whether it's like, you do the work, and then you manage the business, then you talk to customers, and then you pay all 12 people who want taxes from you, and then like freaking
fully
rent,
aware. Yes.
all that stuff. It's hard to do all that by yourself. I don't know how anybody does it and like has sanity. So anywho, Daniel asked me to jump on with him, and he specializes in Toyota, Lexus, and Land Cruisers. Like that's his bread and butter. He's a Toyota dude.
Does he have a garage somewhere that he works on, or does he just like going out? Okay.
Yeah, so we have a shop, and we're literally on the same street as the dojo.
Oh wow! So you're right down the street. Yeah.
So,
Dude, you got any buildings on that street that are up for lease? If you see,
I think there's one coming up. I think the old
want
dojo is kind of up in the air. There's a lot of guys trying to get it, but that one's what's up in the air.
I'm in the market for a building similar.
Yeah, they've outgrown their space. Yeah. So you came on board. How long have you been doing that with him?
I jumped on board with him in November of 21.
Okay.
So what I did previous to this was I was a facilities manager for a church.
Well, not just any church. It's like a mega church, Church of the Highlands.
It's a Church of the Highlands, yeah.
Which is how you know my brother-in-law come around full circle.
So Zach, your brother-in-law, him and another guy, Moskal, kind of helped get me the job with the church. So me and Zach knew each other so we went to Highlands College together in 2015. And that's how I met your brother-in-law, Zach. And then he was doing facility stuff and maintenance, taking care of the church. And then I would help him on Sundays take care of one of the buildings. That was like my serve or whatever. And so he got me that. So anywho, that was a rabbit trail, which there's some freaking hilarious stories with Zach. Anytime you spend time with Zach.
He's a trip, man. Yeah.
He is. He's one of the purest humans out there.
Yeah.
He's just definitely good people.
Good. Yeah. Well, I love him. Yeah.
So I did that for I was employed for 6 years, but I was there for 8. So did that. Yeah. So it was cool. It was actually a really cool experience.
But you said you went to Kansas for a year to learn restoration. So I guess you always had a passion for like automotive and stuff.
Dude, my daily driver in high school was a 1981 Camaro with when I got the car,
you got some experience working on that.
Yeah, when I got the car, I had a 454 big block with a power glide in it, and it had a knock in it. And I met this guy. It was in Florence, Alabama. I met this guy who had a shop. And I was like, man, what's that noise? I don't know anything about these things. Like, I've always wanted one. My dad had a 77 Trans Am, and I just wanted to be like my dad with an F body.
Yeah.
It was just kind of, I thought it was cool. Be like, hey, I had kind of the same style car my dad did. Anywho, this guy named Nick who ran this automotive shop was like, get out there, put it to the floor, up and down the street, and come back when it ain't running. I was like, seriously? He's like, yeah, blow it up.
Go blow it up.
So went out there, freaking hammered it, blew it up, bottom end came out of it. It
was gosh,
beautiful.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was great.
Sick.
So then he pulls it into the shop. He's like, all right, I'll go get you a motor out of a junkyard. So then we went and got a 350. Man, this could be a long story too. How did I get here?
I asked what was you said you went to school in Kansas and how you kind of got into automotive stuff.
Always been huge into cars and trucks and motorcycles and just always been a fan of it. Like, you know, guys who play sports or whatever, like they lay in bed at night and think about, you know, this game or that game. I'd lay in bed and think about freaking how a Chevy 350 works, how a flathead V8 works. Like, that's just kind of how my brain worked. So I wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah. I heard it. I was listening to some other podcast, the Blue Toddcast. You heard of that?
Yeah.
Dude, well, he makes rad videos and he has a cool podcast. And he was like, he equated like working on old bikes and stuff. He's like, man, we just love puzzles. Like, this is just like adult puzzles.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It's just problem solving.
Problem solving, yeah.
So
you're stranded in the middle of the desert. You're just like, all right, let me problem solve my way out of this.
Yeah. So that's how I did that and went to school in Kansas to learn how to do that. And I was like, man, I feel like, you know, the Lord's leading me to do something. And it's like, I'm always going to be a part of this, but now's not the time to do that. So then I came home, lived at home for a couple of years, just trying to figure out, because I obviously didn't want to spend a lot of money at a school when I wasn't sure that's exactly what I needed to
What
be
you
doing.
wanted to do.
So
yeah.
I just didn't want to accrue crazy amounts of debt. I wanted to steward my money well, and that's not how I wanted to do it. And obviously, parents were helping pay for school and all that kind of stuff. So came home and then went to Highlands College, did that, and then Daniel reached out to me because everything happens in seasons. Like you have seasons where you're supposed to be somewhere, and then seasons come to a close, and your time to move on. That's just how life works. It's not a bad thing. It's
probably a good thing. Actually.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
So my season had come to a close at the church, and I was just thinking and praying, like, where do I need to go next? And freaking Boozer's like, dude, I need your help.
So it just worked out.
And it's just like, all right, I'll do it. So I jumped on with him, and then so now Daniel focuses on working on the cars, and I focus on everything else.
Okay.
So I do all the.
I'm sure you're still in there helping him if he, What does he mostly do? I mean, who is his clientele? Just people who have like Land Cruisers and stuff they're trying to get running, or
if it's broke,
just
he fixes
anything.
it.
Just
yeah.
Okay.
We'll get stuff come in that other shops have had that they didn't know how to fix.
Really?
Yeah. And Daniel, like, dude, he's a freaking genius.
I've heard that from more than one person.
He's an automotive genius.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so he
I like Toyotas. Yeah. I've got a Tacoma sitting out there, and they're just great, man. They're
wonderful vehicles.
Bulletproof, yeah.
Toyota makes great cars. And so I pretty much took the weight and stresses of life off of him so that he could focus on the cars. But
it's just you two that are doing it.
Now, so we have another guy with us right now. His name's Jake. He's hilarious. He's the class clown of the group. But he's working with us, and we have a part-time guy, Josh.
Okay, so kind of handles crew. Yeah,
he does our Instagram and stuff. And then he sells a lot of our used parts online.
Cool. So the bikes and stuff is just for fun. You guys,
for funsies.
Yeah, I gotcha. Cool.
And it's like you say, it's any reason you go ride.
Yeah, sure.
Or any reason you go do something that you love. It's like there's your peace or your
zen,
like your reset. Yeah.
I think Dwayne was like, we had him and Nick Resty on probably like a year ago. He's like, whenever he gets stressed out, he's like, man, I just got to get my knees in the breeze.
Knees in the breeze.
Get my knees in the breeze. We talked to those dudes about some, the super trips and some of the rad things that they've done, and they're always posting crazy videos, especially Nick. We talked a little bit about the Chopper Fest, but have you done any big road trips or anything on the Honda? Or did I ask you that already?
Well, so I did that 1K in a day, which was fun.
Where'd you go?
Okay, so left Birmingham. I went up to Memphis, and then rode straight down to New Orleans. Rode a circle around New Orleans because I needed the 1,000 miles. And it was like a 900-mile trip going from here to Memphis to New Orleans, and then I went to Montgomery, and I figured out I was going to be short some miles. So then I did a loop around Montgomery. And then I rode.
Crap. This is all in a day?
This is all in a day. And then rode from Montgomery back into Birmingham. And
how long did it take?
18 hours and 56 minutes.
Whew, that is insane. Wow. And you just had a wild hair to just do that. Just woke up one morning.
Yeah.
You're like, let's do this.
It's like, what am I doing this Saturday? I'm going to do it.
Okay.
So I did that and then rode with the guys at Daytona.
What's at Daytona? It's just bike week down there? Okay.
Yeah. So I did Daytona previous with just one buddy. We went down there in 2021, and then in 20 this is when COVID hit.
That was about to say.
So COVID hit the week of Daytona. So we were down there. It was packed the first half of the week. Second half of the week, it was like
everybody's
empty.
like, oh God, we're all going to die.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And I had worked at the church at this point. So in 2020, I was working at the church. And I was like, I had my phone off. I was like, I wasn't going to be like, I'm leaving all my stresses at the house.
You didn't know this whole global thing
I had no
is going
idea
down.
this was going on. We're down there hanging out. Like, we'll go to a show or go to a bar, and then it's like it's empty. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, man, people are leaving because of the virus.
There's
I'm
this
like,
virus.
What?
Yeah.
So I ride back into town. We get back into town that next weekend. Well, that was the weekend that everything shut down. And I'm like getting my stuff ready to get back to work. Sundays were like 15-hour days every Sunday. So I got back that Saturday. I was going to work that Sunday. And they're like, hey, the church is calling a timeout right now. We're just going to do online. Because, nobody knew how to navigate it.
Yeah, it was like so new. Like, what do we do?
Yeah, so we did a lot of work from home stuff, and then I did a lot of painting and pressure washing at the church because no one was there. But then, anywho, Daytona. Then I took a trip with all the Haints guys and the few others.
I think I was like scrolling through and I saw you guys were posted up outside some maximum security prison.
Yeah,
y'all were like taking pictures next to the sign.
Yeah.
Something corrections or something.
Yeah,
like that,
Jeremiah
right?
Smith, man, he's Volusia County's.
Yeah.
He was Volusia County's poster child that weekend.
Okay.
Dang.
So no, that was funny. I don't know if I can tell the whole story, but anywho, something happened and it wasn't anything bad. But we went and picked up Jeremiah that morning. It was the morning we were supposed to leave to come back.
Okay. So he got picked up.
He
Okay.
got hauled off.
Okay. Yeah,
Dude, it was hilarious. Like the whole story. And so this is the first time I actually met a lot of those guys.
Yeah. Okay.
Which was like super cool that they would allow me to ride with them.
Yeah.
I was like, it just shows that they were just good people.
Definitely.
Like they're really just like the salt of the earth.
My biggest fear before I would take off with a bunch of dudes, and they kind of alluded to this in the Blue Toddcast when they were talking about taking trips with like new guys and stuff, is like I would break down and not know how to fix my bike. Like that would be like, and then have to like, not necessarily feel like you're holding everybody up, but just to kind of be in that situation. It's like, well, something's wrong. I have no idea what.
Yeah. But that's but that's the journey of it though.
Yeah.
It's like those moments where you break down and you run into some adversity. That's where you kind of learn who you are and who the people around you are.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. There's a loyalty, and buddy breaks down. I'm obviously not going to leave him.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's like, well, let's work together and fix it and get you back on the road.
Yeah.
We're all going to the same place, regardless of what time we get there. If we make it, if we don't make it, it doesn't matter. Let's stay together.
How long did it take you guys? I guess Daytona's not that far to do that in a day. Well, you're riding 1,000 miles a day, so
Yeah, and half the guys were on clapped out bikes anyways, and so we're stopping for gas every 50 miles.
Oh, sure. Those little tanks and stuff.
Yeah, itty bitties. I mean, but it was fun, dude.
That's
It was
fun.
so much fun.
Yeah.
So we were riding down there, and then we ended up camping on the beach. So we were riding south, and I don't know how we got there, but we found this bar and restaurant because we're all starving. It was super late at night. It was closing time for them. We found a spot that we were going to camp, if I remember correctly, and I don't think it was going to pan out. So we got to this restaurant, and there was this band playing. There's a bunch of old guys, and they're sloshed. Like they're trying to play the songs and sing the songs, and it was happening, but it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there eating. We're the last group in. There's like 12 of us, 13 of us that roll up into this thing. And so
I'm sure the wait staff's like, oh god.
Well, no, because I think Jeremiah or somebody had the conversation, was like, hey, is it okay if we? And they're like, yeah, you boys come in. You guys have been riding all day.
That's cool.
And they really took care of us, which was super cool. But Danger Dan was in there, and he found out there were some locals. He went and talked and asked some guys there where to camp, and they dropped a pin, and he rode out there and found the spot.
Dude, that'd be sick,
and just
man.
set up. And there's pictures of it on Kurtz's page of where we set up camp. It was pitch black at night. So we left there from the restaurant and went and set up camp. And we didn't really know where we were other than we were at this cul-de-sac in the state park or whatever. And we had camped in this spot. And then we wake up to the beach and I don't know if it was like a lagoon or like the inside, whatever. But we're surrounded by water. It was beautiful.
That's awesome.
It was so cool. And we woke up to that and then rode down. But, yeah, anywho.
That's cool. I don't know if, I guess Thunder on the Beach is still a thing down in PC. It's like a little bit. It's like a bike weekend that they would have.
Like 10 years.
It's been a while, but man, me and my friend Randy rode down once. I don't know if that was going on, but we camped down there, and I remember being so miserably hot when we camped down there. It was like middle of the summer. We rode down to the beach.
You just sticky.
Just sticky, and you just been on your bike all day, and we were in just tent camping and stuff, and I remember laying on the top of a picnic table in the middle of the night because it's still 100% humidity.
Oh yeah,
and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm gonna die.
You're drowning just breathing the air.
But it's so fun because once you get down there, just riding up and down the the strip and stuff, and they don't have helmet laws, so as long as you're not going super fast, I mean, we just pull our helmets off, kind of get some breeze going. And super fun. So glad to.
And there's just something cool about just not taking a shower for a couple days.
Sure, yeah.
You know, you kind of get back to the roots of what being a man is.
Yeah. Bikes, man, it's fun.
Yeah. So motorcycles are cool.
Motorcycles, the plot of the whole conversation.
Yeah, and I think motorcycles, it brings a lot of like-minded people together.
Yeah.
And so the network, I think a lot of times motorcycles are just an avenue for good people to meet each other.
Sure, definitely. It's like it kind of removes that wall, like anybody that you see on a bike. It's like, well, obviously we have this in common at least. You know what I mean? So
it's a really good icebreaker.
Yeah, definitely.
It really is.
Well, dude, I'm looking forward to the summer, man, and it's rad hearing about your bike. And
man.
You got any other big things planned for it, or are you just going to ride it for a while?
Man, I've thrown out some really dumb ideas with it, and I don't know if we're ever gonna do it. I would love to try, cause so I wanna actually build a hardtail frame for the rear half of it, like a genuine hardtail style frame.
Just cut it off and weld another one on.
Yep. So the kicker is with that swing arm is I have to retain the movement of that swing arm because I have to drop it to service it. And I can't just cut it out.
So it can't just be all welded together. It's got to be a way that you can access it.
So I have this old lowering kit where it has brackets that would bolt to the swing arm on this side and the drive shaft on this side. And I've thought about building a hardtail style frame that goes to that so that I can still cut out all the other bull crap and then pull the axle and still drop the single drive shaft. But it's a frame. It's a hardtail frame that is just one solid unit.
So it would just get rid of the struts that you got on the side and just kind of clean it up a little bit, I guess. Okay, that'd be cool.
It would do that. And then Honda actually makes a 750 motor overseas that's actually a chain drive.
Okay.
So I could do a full conversion chain drive on it.
That would look cool. His is chain drive. Chain drive. We just put a new chain on it.
Just sprockets and everything.
Yeah, new sprockets and chain, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I've seen where people have put turbos on bikes.
Okay, what?
How fast do you need to go?
I don't know, man.
Dude.
I saw there was one guy who put a turbo on a Honda Shadow.
I believe it.
And it was it was like in the early 2000s. This dude did it.
Does it give it that sound when it's like that? Or
whatever?
I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Turbo,
in cars and stuff.
So I've had that thought. I'm like, man, that would be really dumb.
How can I turn this into a rocket?
Yeah,
that's what I want to do.
Dude, a freaking teriyaki rocket.
Teriyaki rocket. That's funny. Teriyaki chopper. That's cool.
That's it. Because it's like you blow that motor up, you can get another one for $300 on eBay.
Yeah.
Like that's the cool part about Hondas.
That's pretty appealing.
His name is escaping me. Damn. We had a dude on who he had a shop, and he had a badass Virago. What's his name, dude? Do you remember?
We're talking about the dude in Pinson?
Yeah. I was just thinking.
It was like over a year ago.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I ran into him at the gas station. Anyways, he had a cool bike. But your bike is awesome, man. Thanks for. Hopefully, we get to ride soon. You know, it'd be cool. But thanks for coming by and chatting with us, and
dude, thanks for
kind of getting this back going. Man, Austin, super nice meeting you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you guys.
Cool.
Absolutely,
I really appreciate it.